Hey folks, tonight we're diving into the wild, hilarious ride of Napoleon Hill's life. The guy who gave us Think and Grow Rich but almost didn't make it as a journalist. Picture a young Hill, stumbling through newsrooms with big dreams and bigger blunders. It's a story so funny. You might not survive the laughs, though I'm betting you'll pull through, unlike my attempt at parallel parking last week. So before you get cozy, take a sec to like this video and subscribe, but only if you're vibing with what I'm putting down here. It's the early 1900s, and you're Napoleon Hill, a scrappy kid from Virginia, barely in your 20s, with a typewriter that's more stubborn than a mule. The air smells of ink and coal smoke as you hustle through small-town newsrooms, chasing a career in journalism. You're not exactly Bob Woodward. Your first gigs are for tiny papers covering barn dances and local feuds. But you've got a spark, a way with words that makes editors pause. Even if your spelling's shakier than a Model T on a dirt road. You're determined to make it big, but oh boy, the road's bumpier than you expected. Your first real shot comes with a paper in Wise County, where you're tasked with writing about a local businessman. You show up, notebook in hand, only to realize you've forgotten your pen. Classic move, Napoleon. You borrow a pencil from the guy's secretary, scribbling so fast it snaps mid-interview. The businessman laughs, but you're sweating bullets, trying to keep up. You file the story late, and the editor chews you out saying, "Kid, you write like a poet but organize like a tornado." Still, your piece gets printed, and it's good. Good enough to get you more assignments, even if half the town's giggling at your rookie mistakes. You're freelancing now, pitching stories to bigger papers, but it's a comedy of errors. Picture yourself in a Knoxville newsroom, 1907. The clatter of typewriters like a drumline in your ears. You're supposed to cover a city council meeting, but you get the time wrong and show up as they're locking the doors. Undeterred, you charm a janitor into letting you peek at the minutes, spinning a half-baked story that's more fiction than fact. The editor runs it anyway, but you're on thin ice, and the ice is cracking. You're learning fast, though, how to talk your way into rooms, how to make a dull story sing, even if your facts are as wobbly as a three-legged chair. Here's a weird tidbit. You once wrote an article about a haunted barn because you misheard a farmer talking about his hunted barn. Yep, it was just a spot for deer season. The story ran, and locals loved the spooky tale, but you were mortified when the truth came out. Historians still debate whether you were a natural storyteller or just prone to epic mix-ups, but either way, it kept you in the game. For a laugh, imagine this. You once tripped over a newsroom wastebasket, sending papers flying like confetti, right in front of a grumpy editor. You joked, just practicing for the front page, and got a grudging chuckle. Another time, you mailed a story to the wrong paper, only to get a polite rejection saying, "We don't cover Virginia goat races." And then there's the gem where you showed up to an interview in mismatched shoes, left brown, right black, praying nobody noticed. Spoiler, they did. The historical truth? By 1908, you were freelancing for papers like Bob Taylor's Magazine, building a reputation despite your hiccups. Your knack for spinning a tale got you noticed, even if your organizational skills were, let's say, a work in progress. You're hustling, sleeping in boarding houses that smell of stale bread and regret, sending letters to editors who barely know your name. But you're getting better, learning to ask sharp questions, to listen like your life depends on it. You're starting to see stories everywhere. In the grit of a factory worker, the ambition of a shopkeeper. It's shaping you, teaching you that success isn't just in the headlines, it's in the hustle. You're not a polished journalist yet, far from it. But you've got a gift for talking your way into places you don't belong, whether it's a mayor's office or a tycoon's study. Each misstep, each near miss, is a lesson, and you're soaking it up. You're Napoleon Hill, the guy who's one part dreamer, one part disaster, and all heart. Chasing stories that'll lead you to something bigger. The newsroom's a mess, but it's your mess, and you're just getting started. That big break, the one that'll change everything? It's coming, and it's going to be a wild ride. You're Napoleon Hill, still a bit of a mess in the journalism game, but your knack for talking your way into rooms is about to pay off big. It's 1908, and the world's humming with the clatter of factories and the whistle of trains. You're in your mid-20s, your suitcase battered, your dreams bigger than the Smoky Mountains. The air smells of cigar smoke and ambition as you step into a moment that'll change your life forever. A meeting with Andrew Carnegie, the steel tycoon who's richer than a king. Picture yourself in his oak-paneled office, the kind of place that screams money, your palms sweaty, your tie slightly crooked. You're here to interview him, but you're about to stumble into something way bigger, with a few hilarious hiccups along the way. You've been scraping by, writing for magazines and small papers, your story's a mix of grit and charm. Even if your facts sometimes wobble like a loose wheel. Getting this interview was a coup. You sweet-talked your way past 3 secretaries, each one frostier than the last. Now you're sitting across from Carnegie, his Scottish brogue thick, his eyes sizing you up like you're a horse at auction. You're nervous, your notebook clutched like a lifeline, but you've got questions ready. How do you build an empire? What's the secret to success? He leans back, smirking, and instead of answering, he flips the script. He challenges you to spend your life studying success, interviewing the world's greatest minds. Edison, Ford, Rockefeller. No pay, just a shot at cracking the code. Your heart's racing like you've just run from a beehive. You're stunned, but you nod. Because who says no to Carnegie? It's a wild leap, like jumping off a cliff hoping there's water below. You're thinking, me? A nobody from Virginia? But there's a spark in his words, a promise that success isn't luck, it's a formula. You're already imagining the headlines, the books, the legacy. But let's be real. You nearly botch the moment. You spill your coffee when you stand to shake his hand, leaving a brown stain on his fancy rug. You mutter an apology, face red as a beet, but Carnegie just laughs, saying, "Lad, if you can survive that, you can survive anything." You're off to a rocky start, but you're in. Now here's the quirky detail. Rumor has it you almost missed the meeting because you got lost in Pittsburgh's maze of streets, asking a hot dog vendor for directions to the rich guy's office. True or not, it's classic you, big dreams, shaky execution. Historians still debate whether Carnegie's challenge was a formal deal, or just a passing comment you spun into a lifelong quest, but you treat it like a sacred vow, scribbling notes that night until your hand cramps. For a laugh, picture this. You once tried to impress Carnegie by quoting Shakespeare, only to mangle the line so badly he raised an eyebrow and said, "Stick to success, son." Another time, you left your notebook in a diner, racing back to find it under a plate of half-eaten pie. Gross, but you saved it. And then there's the moment you tripped over a step leaving his office, catching yourself just before face-planting. You played it off with a grin, but your ego took the hit. The historical truth? Your meeting with Carnegie, around 1908, is documented in your own writings, though the details shift depending on who's telling it. You claimed it was an hours-long deep dive. Some say it was a quick chat. Either way, it's the spark that sets you on a new path. You're no longer just chasing stories for pennies. You're a detective of success, hunting for the secrets of the greats. You start writing letters to tycoons, your typewriter clacking late into the night, begging for 5 minutes of their time. Most ignore you, but a few bite, and each interview feels like a puzzle piece clicking into place. You're still a journalist at heart, using those skills to dig deep, to listen, to spin what you hear into something bigger. But the road's rough. You're hopping trains, sleeping in boarding houses that smell of mildew and regret, your wallet thinner than a dime. You're burning through cash to chase this dream, and the folks back home are starting to whisper, "Is Napoleon nuts?" You push it aside, fueled by Carnegie's words, that gruff voice echoing, "Success is a science." You're all in, even if you're stumbling, spilling coffee, and losing notebooks along the way. This moment with Carnegie is your turning point, the pivot from small-time reporter to something else, a philosopher, maybe, or a dreamer with a mission. You're not there yet, but you can feel it, like the hum of a train before it leaves the station. You're Napoleon Hill, the guy who's one part charm, one part chaos, and all in on a quest that'll define you. The laughs, the near misses? They're just the start. The real story's about to get wilder. Fresh off your game-changing chat with Andrew Carnegie, your mind buzzing like a telegraph wire in the early 1910s. The world's a whirlwind of smokestacks and streetcars, and you're on a mission to crack the code of success. Armed with nothing but a typewriter, a tattered suitcase, and a knack for turning chaos into charm. The air in your latest boarding house smells of damp wool and yesterday's stew as you scribble notes from interviews with the likes of Henry Ford and Thomas Edison. You're building a philosophy that'll become Think and Grow Rich, but the road's paved with hilarious missteps that keep you laughing through the grind. Let's dive into this chapter, where your journalism roots and sense of humor shape a blueprint for success. You're crisscrossing America, chasing meetings with titans of industry. Your shoes more holes than leather. Each interview's a treasure hunt. Ford in Detroit, his factories roar in your ears. Bell in Boston, his voice soft as he talks about focus. You're soaking up their wisdom, piecing together patterns. Desire, belief, persistence. These aren't just words. They're gears in a machine you're building, a philosophy you're calling the law of success. Your old reporter tricks come in handy. Asking sharp questions, spinning their answers into something universal. But you're still you, which means every step forward comes with a stumble that's pure comedy gold. Take your trip to meet Edison. You're so nervous you mix up your notes, asking him about Ford's assembly line. He squints, probably wondering if you're a genius or a goofball, but you recover with a quick joke about inventing a better question next time. Then there's the time you showed up to interview a banker, only to realize you'd left your best shirt on a train. You borrow a jacket from a hotel clerk, 2 sizes too big, and spend the whole meeting tugging at the sleeves like a kid in his dad's suit. Your charm saves you. People can't help but like you, even when you're a walking disaster. Here's a weird tidbit. You once tried to take shorthand during an interview with a railroad magnate, but your scribbles were so bad you later mistook profit margin for proper margarine. The article still ran, but you cringed when readers asked about his butter empire. Historians still debate whether your knack for embellishing stories, honed in those early journalism days, made your philosophy more myth than method, but it sure made your interviews lively. For a laugh, picture this. You once got stuck in a revolving door before a big interview, spinning like a hamster until a doorman rescued you. You quipped, "Just practicing my persistence," and got a chuckle. Another time, you sent a letter to a tycoon, only to realize you'd addressed it to his rival. Awkward, but you talked your way into both their offices. And then there's the gem where you spilled ink on your only clean shirt, wearing it anyway and telling folks it was modern art. You're a mess, but a lovable one. The historical truth? By the mid-1910s, you'd interviewed dozens of leaders, from inventors to industrialists, laying the foundation for your 1928 book, The Law of Success. Your journalism background was key. You knew how to dig, how to listen, how to make complex ideas sing. You're not just collecting quotes. You're crafting a system distilling principles like definite chief aim and mastermind groups into something anyone can use. You start testing these ideas in articles and small lectures, your voice low and steady, like you're sharing a secret by candlelight. People lean in, hooked, as you weave stories of tycoons into lessons for the everyman. But it's not all smooth. You're burning through cash, staying in boarding houses that smell like regret and cheap tobacco. Your journalism gigs barely pay, and you're pouring everything into this quest. You're still tripping over your own feet, literally and figuratively, but each misstep teaches you something. You learn to laugh at yourself, to keep going when a door slams or a story flops. Your old reporter's hustle, that ability to spin a tale out of nothing, is what keeps you moving. You're starting to see the shape of your philosophy, like a sculpture emerging from stone, but it's your humor that keeps you sane. You're not famous yet, but you're getting there. Your articles are catching eyes, and your talks are drawing crowds. You're Napoleon Hill, the guy who can turn a missed train or a botched interview into a story that inspires. The world's starting to listen, and you're ready to take this philosophy to the next level. But the laughs, the near misses? They're still part of the package, and they're what make your journey so human. The big stage is calling, and you're about to answer, with a few more stumbles of course. Riding high in the late 1920s, your journalist's hustle and knack for turning blunders into charm now fueling a bigger stage. The world's alive with the buzz of jazz and the clatter of Model Ts. And you're at the center of it. Your philosophy of success taking shape like a story you can't stop writing. The air in your cramped office smells of fresh ink and ambition as you pound out the final pages of The Law of Success, your first big book, while prepping for Think and Grow Rich. Your days as a bumbling reporter are paying off. Those skills for spinning tales and dodging disasters are making you a star. But the laughs? Oh, they're still coming, keeping you grounded as you soar. Your big break hits in 1928 when The Law of Success lands on shelves. It's a beast, Hundreds of pages packed with your 17 principles, drawn from interviews with tycoons like Ford and Edison. People eat it up, from shopkeepers to stockbrokers, quoting your ideas about definite chief aims over diner coffee. You're hitting the lecture circuit now, standing in smoky halls. Your voice low and soothing, like you're telling secrets by firelight. Crowds lean in as you weave stories of Carnegie's steel empire, or Bell's telephone into lessons anyone can use. Your old reporter's trick of making dry facts sing is working overtime. And it feels like you're conducting a symphony of dreams. But you're still Napoleon, so the mishaps keep coming. Picture yourself at a lecture in Chicago. Your notes slipping off the podium mid-talk, scattering like leaves. You grin, say, "That's just my ideas trying to escape." And the crowd roars. Or the time you showed up to a bookstore signing, only to realize you'd grabbed a rival's self-help book by mistake. You signed it anyway, joking, "Let's make this guy successful too." Your humor, honed in those chaotic newsroom days, turns every flub into a moment that endears you to fans. Here's a quirky tidbit. You once tried to pitch a success-themed board game to a publisher, complete with dice labeled persistence and faith. They passed, saying it was too much like Monopoly but weirder. Historians still debate whether your flair for oddball ideas, like that game or your sex transmutation chapter, made you a visionary or just a guy who couldn't resist a wild pitch. Either way, it kept your name in the conversation. For a laugh, imagine this. You once got locked in a lecture hall's storage closet, banging on the door until a janitor freed you, just in time to start your talk. You told the crowd, "Trapped but never defeated." And they loved it. Another time, you mispronounced a tycoon's name in a speech, calling him Mr. Vanderbilt instead of Vanderbilt. Awkward, but you laughed it off like a pro. And then there's the gem where you spilled soup on your tie before a radio interview, going on air sounding smooth while looking like a lunch buffet casualty. The historical truth? Think and Grow Rich, published in 1937, sold over 20,000 copies in its first year, a massive hit during the Great Depression. Your journalism roots, digging for stories, spinning raw facts into gold, made it possible. You're not just writing books, you're building a movement. Your lectures pack halls from New York to San Francisco, and fan letters pour in, some scrawled on napkins, thanking you for giving them hope. You're a star now, dining with mayors, shaking hands with CEOs, but you're still the guy who once lost a notebook under a diner pie. That scrappy reporter's heart keeps you relatable, even as your fame skyrockets. You're still tripping over life's little traps, though. You lose track of schedules, showing up late to talks because you misread a train timetable. You're burning through cash to travel, your wallet as thin as your old newsroom paychecks. But your philosophy, desire, belief, persistence, is catching fire. You're telling people to visualize success, to form mastermind groups, and they're listening, changing their lives. Your journalism days taught you to find the human angle, to make big ideas feel personal. And it's why your words hit home. You're at your peak, but the irony's not lost on you. The guy preaching success still fumbles the small stuff. Lost notes, soup-stained ties, botched names. It's your humor that carries you through. The same wit that saved you when you mailed a story to the wrong paper, or tripped over a newsroom trash can. You're Napoleon Hill, the journalist-turned-guru, turning stumbles into stories that inspire. The world's watching now, and you're ready to shine, even if you're still dodging a few curveballs along the way. Basking in the glow of your 1930s fame. The world buzzing with your words like a radio tuned to hope. Think and Grow Rich is a sensation, flying off shelves, and you're packing lecture halls from coast to coast. Your voice as smooth as a late-night whisper, spinning tales of success that make hearts race. The air smells of polished wood and anticipation as you stand on stage. Your old journalism days. The ones filled with spilled ink and mismatched shoes. Now a secret weapon. Those scrappy, laugh-filled moments shaped you. And your humor, sharp as a newsroom deadline, keeps your audiences hooked. Let's dive into how your reporter's roots and knack for a good chuckle cement your legacy. Your book's a lifeline in the Great Depression, with folks clutching dog-eared copies, underlining passages about autosuggestion and mastermind groups. You're not just a writer. You're a phenomenon, getting fan letters from farmers to factory workers, all saying you've changed their lives. Your lectures are electric. Picture yourself in a New York auditorium, the crowd hushed, hanging on your stories of Carnegie's grit or Ford's hustle. You weave in your old reporter's tricks, making big ideas feel like front-page scoops, personal and urgent. Your journalism days taught you to find the human angle. And it's why people feel like you're talking right to them, like a friend sharing secrets over coffee. But you're still the guy who once mailed a story to the wrong paper, so the laughs keep coming. At one lecture, you drop your glasses mid-sentence, bending to grab them while joking. See? Even success needs a backup plan. The crowd roars, loving your relatability. Or take the time you showed up to a radio station, only to realize you'd prepared notes for the wrong topic. You ad-libbed, channeling your newsroom hustle, and the host called it your best interview yet. Your ability to laugh off flubs, honed in those chaotic early days, makes you a star who feels like family. Here's a quirky tidbit. You once got a fan letter with a success talisman, a polished rock painted with your initials. You kept it on your desk, half joking it was your lucky charm. Though it didn't stop you from misplacing your speech notes. Historians still debate whether your journalism background, those years of chasing stories and dodging editors, gave you the grit to build a philosophy, or just the charm to sell it. Either way, your knack for turning near misses into wins is what keeps your name alive. For a laugh, imagine this. You once got stuck in a hotel elevator before a talk, pounding on the door until a bellhop freed you. You strode on stage saying, "Trapped, but I persisted." And the crowd ate it up. Another time you accidentally called a fan Mr. Rockefeller during a book signing. Wrong guy, but you laughed it off saying, "Hey, you're rich in spirit." And then there's the moment you tried to fix a projector during a lecture, only to unplug the whole thing, plunging the room into darkness. You quipped, "Guess we're visualizing success now," and got a standing ovation. The historical truth? By the late 1930s, Think and Grow Rich had sold over 1 million copies, a juggernaut that turned you into a household name. Your journalism roots were key. Those years of digging for truth, spinning tales, and laughing through mistakes gave you the tools to craft a philosophy that resonated. You're not just preaching success, you're storytelling, making every listener feel like they're part of the journey. You're dining with big shots now, your face on posters, but you're still the guy who once tripped over a newsroom wastebasket, and that keeps you grounded. You're not perfect, though. You still lose track of schedules, showing up late to talks because you got lost in a new city. Some things never change. Your wallet's tight, despite your fame, a nod to those lean reporter days when you lived on coffee and hustle. But your humor, your ability to turn a flub into a lesson, is what makes you shine. You're telling people to believe, to persist, to laugh at the setbacks, and they're listening, building businesses, chasing dreams. Your journalism past taught you to see the story in everyone, and it's why your words stick. You're Napoleon Hill, the guy who turned newsroom chaos into a philosophy that changed the world. Your rise to fame is a testament to your grit, your charm, and your ability to laugh when life throws curveballs. The stumbles, the jokes, the near misses, they're all part of the magic. Your legacy's growing, and the world's still listening. Ready for the final chapter of this wild, hilarious ride. You're Napoleon Hill, in the fading light of the 1950s and 60s. Your legacy a towering beacon that still shines through the haze of time. The world's moved on, rock and roll blares, TVs flicker in every home. But Think and Grow Rich remains a lifeline, its pages worn by hands chasing dreams. You're older now, your voice softer, your steps slower, sitting in a quiet study where the air smells of old books and faint pipe smoke. Your journalism days, those wild, laugh-filled years of spilled ink and missed deadlines, are the roots of your story, the humor that kept you going. Tonight, we're wrapping up, tying your bumbling reporter past to the enduring spark you've left behind. Your legacy is massive, like a headline splashed across the sky. Your books sold millions, translated into languages you never dreamed of, inspiring everyone from small-town shopkeepers to global CEOs. Your principles, desire, faith, the mastermind, are the DNA of modern self-help, shaping how people chase goals. Those early newsroom missteps, where you tripped over wastebaskets or mailed stories to the wrong paper, taught you to laugh at setbacks, to spin chaos into gold. That humor, your journalist's knack for finding the story in every stumble, made your philosophy feel human, not just a formula. You've given the world a way to see success as a choice, not a stroke of luck. But let's talk about those laughs. Your life was a comedy of errors wrapped in ambition. You're the guy who once wrote about a haunted barn because you misheard hunted, turning a deer stand into a ghost story. You're the one who spilled coffee on Carnegie's rug, then joked your way out of it. That ability to chuckle through the chaos wasn't just charm, it was your secret sauce. It's why people connected with you, why your lectures felt like chats with a friend. You weren't perfect, and you didn't pretend to be. Your fans loved you for it, from the factory worker quoting your book to the kid who sent you a painted rock talisman. Here's a quirky detail. Late in life, you tried selling a Napoleon Hill success course on vinyl records, your voice crackling through lessons like a radio from another era. It didn't sell big, but collectors still hunt those records, charmed by your earnest, slightly offbeat delivery. Historians still debate whether your journalism days, those years of near misses and quick wit, made you a master storyteller or just a lucky dreamer who stumbled into greatness. Either way, your ability to laugh at yourself shaped a philosophy that's outlived you. For a laugh, picture this. You once misread a lecture invite, showing up in a suit while everyone else was in overalls for a success picnic. You quipped, "I dressed for the boardroom, not the barbecue," and won them over. Another time, you signed a fan's book so fast you wrote "Keep Dreaming" upside down, laughing it off as a new perspective. And then there's the story of you trying to fix a radio mic, only to broadcast static across Chicago. Your sheepish "let's try that again" got more applause than the talk itself. The historical truth? You passed away in 1970 at 87, with Think and Grow Rich selling over 100 million copies worldwide. A number that'd make your younger self dizzy. Your journalism roots, digging for truth, spinning tales, laughing through flubs, built that legacy. You weren't flawless. You struggled with money, lost notes, botched schedules. But those hiccups, the ones you laughed off in newsrooms and lecture halls, made you real. Your philosophy wasn't about perfection. It was about persistence, belief, and finding joy in the mess. You're Napoleon Hill, the reporter who almost didn't make it. The dreamer who turned stumbles into stories that changed the world. Your humor, your heart, your hustle, they're why your words still echo, why people still pick up your book and feel a spark. The newsroom taught you to keep going, to find the story in every setback, and you did. Your legacy's a laugh, a lesson, a light that won't fade. Let's slow down now. Let the story settle, like embers glowing in a quiet fire. You've walked with Napoleon Hill through newsrooms and lecture halls, from spilled coffee to million copy books, from mismatched shoes to a philosophy that changed lives. His journey was messy, hilarious, human, full of near misses that became his strength. He wasn't just a guru. He was a storyteller, laughing through life's curveballs, turning chaos into wisdom. His principles, desire, faith, persistence, still guide dreamers, lit by the humor he honed as a fumbling reporter. Was he a genius or just a guy who kept going? That's the beauty of his story. A puzzle wrapped in a chuckle. You've seen his spark, his stumbles, his legacy that stretches across decades. Success, he'd say, isn't about perfection. It's about the courage to laugh, to try again, to believe. So as you drift off tonight, hear his voice, soft and steady, whispering, "Keep dreaming, keep laughing, keep going." Napoleon Hill's story lives on. A reminder that even the clumsiest steps can lead to greatness.